What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to another episode of Luttie's Look Back. My name is Nick Luttrell. On today's show, we'll talk three big things. We'll talk Arkansas baseball and their upcoming NCAA regional in Lawrence, Kansas. We'll talk Little Rock baseball. They punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament as well. For the first time in school history, they're going back-to-back NCAA regionals. They're headed to Hattiesburg. And then finally, we'll talk Arkansas softball for the first time in school history, making it to the Women's College World Series. And that's how we'll start my show. We'll talk about Arkansas softball. And how about it? The Super Regional wins against Duke, a 14-5 win on Friday, a 10-2 win on Saturday for the Razorbacks. All 5 of their games in the NCAA tournament. No other team has ever done this. All 5 of their games, they've won in run rule fashion. And against Duke, it was in, 6 innings on Friday and maybe 5 or 6 innings on Saturday. So what a terrific, postseason performance that it's been for the Razorbacks. Sure, they were okay in the SEC tournament, but they worked their way to something better, and that was dominating their own regional. That was dominating their super regional. They play exceptional softball. They play different at home, so it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge now going to Oklahoma City. Granted, that is close by, but going to Oklahoma City and also playing a team in Nebraska, which I'll talk about later on my show, a team in Nebraska that's really good. With all due respect to the teams they've played so far in the NCAA tournament, it's another level when you get to Oklahoma City. So congrats to the Razorbacks. Courtney Deifel, her 11th year as head coach for Arkansas. She took over this program. They were bad. They maybe made to the NCAA tournament one time in the last decade or something like that. They weren't good. And you could never even imagined that she would take this team to the College World Series to be one of the 8 teams left standing in college softball. And the thing is, she got them there pretty quickly. I know this is her 11th year, and she's now here, her 11th year. But within 5 or 6 seasons, she had them NCAA regional hosting, winning the SEC in 2021. And now the past few seasons, it's been like, okay, Arkansas is one of the best teams in the country every year, but they can't seem to make it to Oklahoma City. They just can't do it. It's like Arkansas baseball not being able to win the national championship. They just can't get over that hump and do something that's never been done. Well, they've finally done it. And maybe it's not as long of a wait as Arkansas baseball fans are waiting for a national championship, but it's a long way, and it's much deserved for this Arkansas softball program for coming so far from where they were, again, a decade plus ago, to having Courtney Deifel come and be a tremendous head coach for this Arkansas softball program and continue to get them better and better and better to finally they get over that hump and they win it all. Because this year, they have everything they need to be, I've always said to be a top 8 team to make it to the College World Series. I've never said they have a complete team to win it all. My college softball knowledge isn't quite to that level to say that they do have what it takes to win it all, but they have what it takes to do this. And to win 5 straight games and to punch your ticket to Oklahoma City is something special. It's something special indeed. So enough talk from me about Arkansas softball. Later in the show, I'll preview their upcoming bracket and what they have left with the 8 teams left in the College World Series. But let's hear from Courtney Deifel herself and sophomore third baseman Ella McDowell after the big-time win over the weekend to punch their ticket to the College World Series.
I'm just really proud to be their coach. I'm proud of their fight, their collectiveness. We knew it was going to happen, and it's a really great feeling to know it's going to happen. This team was poised for it, and they're ready, and I'm just so proud of them.
I think we can all agree that this is exactly why we came here. And there was no doubt in all of our minds that when we, committed and we transferred here, this is the goal. So I think we couldn't be more prouder.
Yeah, certainly something special for Arkansas softball. Let's now move on to Arkansas baseball. They did something pretty special in Hoover this past week and weekend. You see it behind me. The green are the wins. The red is the one loss that Arkansas had. They were the 7th seed, I think it was, in the SEC tournament. Had that game Wednesday, a win against Tennessee. Zach Stewart had 2 home runs. He was incredible. And then, of course, the games after that, he was not. But they won that game 8-4 against the top 25 ranked Tennessee team. They had a day off. They came back. They upset Texas 7-1. That was the game that Hunter Dietz got hurt in the first inning. Line drive off the top of his foot. He had to leave the game. He was already pitching sick, So why is he out there on the mound if he's sick? Now he's hurt. He's sick and hurt. Hopefully he'll be fine for, this weekend, but that was frustrating. The good news is for Arkansas pitching, Steele Eves and Gabe Gackle came in and delivered an incredible performance. Cam Kojo had 5 RBIs in that game to lead Arkansas to the win over the Longhorns. And then in the semifinals, just heroic performance from Ethan McIlvain on the mound. A 2-1 win for the Razorbacks over number 6 Auburn. And, of course, Ryder Helfrich's home run in, I believe it was the 8th inning for Arkansas to get that win. And the semifinals punched their ticket to the SEC Championship game, which everyone knew it was going to be difficult in the SEC Championship game against Georgia because how good they are. And they kind of got stumped. And I don't really know how much of a consideration that went into when Arkansas got, picked by the selection committee not as a top 16 team. If you haven't been following this, Arkansas, of course, made the NCAA tournament. They're headed to Lawrence. They'll play Kansas and Missouri State. Northeastern is in that regional as well. But the Razorbacks did something incredible in this SEC tournament, and yet they were going into the SEC tournament. They were kind of on the bubble to make it to be a top 16 team, to host a regional this upcoming weekend in Fayetteville, something they've done each of the past 3 seasons. And it didn't happen. And you got to wonder how much of this championship game factored into it. If they beat Georgia, does that change? I don't know. But to get blown out wasn't amazing. It wasn't. They ran out of pitching on the last day, and that was frustrating. Good news is, hopefully you won't see that happen again for Arkansas. Hopefully they won't have to play that many games in this amount of days in the future. If they do, hopefully they don't get someone hurt like Hunter Dietz. That affected everything. Hunter Dietz only able to pitch an inning or 2. So that affected things. Overall, if we're just talking the SEC tournament as a whole, it was a great performance for the Razorbacks. And you feel guys with confidence that maybe didn't have confidence, that pitched and had great performances, that hit and had great performances. So that's good for Arkansas going into the real postseason of the NCAA regionals. The unfortunate thing is the Razorbacks, once again, were not selected as a top 16 team, and they will not host a regional, which is frustrating. So without me talking about it for too long, let's hear from the guy who's the expert on college baseball as a whole, not just in the state of Arkansas, but I think college baseball as a whole. His name is Dave Van Horn. And here's what he had to say, him being a little shocked after hearing they wouldn't host after winning 3 games in the SEC tournament.
They posted the 16 sites. We were a little taken back. We thought we're going to get one. We had heard after we won the first 2, we were in good shape. But we felt like we needed to win that 3rd one to make sure. And, we used McIlvain for like 4 innings. So it makes you wonder about the tournament a little bit. What's it all about? So maybe rethink it in the future on how we handle it and how we pitch it, how we play it.
Yeah, it may not matter in the future. It may not. The SEC tournament, what does it mean if Arkansas can't do that? I think Dave Van Horn, rightly so, a little frustrated there that Arkansas was not chosen as a top 16 team. Another team that makes the NCAA tournament and qualified because they won their championship game is Little Rock. For the first time in program history, they've won back-to-back OVC titles, and now it's going to be back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances for the Trojans. You see a lot of the green behind me. Little Rock did not make it easy in a lot of these games. Neither did Mother Nature. It affected this whole past weekend of college baseball tournament. But Little Rock did the unthinkable again. They won the first game, lost the second. It's a double elimination, and then they won 5 straight elimination games, including that championship game, a game they were down 6-1 against a good Eastern Illinois team. They were down 6-1 in the 7th inning. 9 outs away from their season being over, and they come all the way back. They score 9 runs, I think it was, in the 7th inning to win the game against EIU and punch their ticket to the Big Nats. I mean, it is incredible that we're seeing similar things that we saw last year from Little Rock. Last year, I will say regular season wasn't great. They were on a losing streak headed into the OVC tournament. Then they make an incredible run, like unbelievable run, and punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. This year, they were one of the best teams in the OVC. They went out in the offseason and got some really good players, retained a lot of really good players, Angel Cano being one of them, and they put together a really good team. They put together a really good regular season, a top 4 team in the OVC tournament, and then they lose their second game, but then they do what they did last year, and they're just never out of it. That's not just how Little Rock was last year or this year. That's just a staple of Little Rock baseball and what Chris Curry has built in here at Little Rock. So congrats to him and the Trojans, because they deserve it. And gosh, for fighting all the way back, for having these comebacks, for having these big time moments, for staying in it, just the mental ability to do that is really impressive. So well done to them. Here's what head coach Chris Curry had to say after the game, including a fun, cold ending to this interview clip. Check it out.
I'm proud to be a Trojan. I'm proud to be from Little Rock, and back-to-back regional champions is hard to do. I think help me out here. Was it 5 wins in 4 days last year, and then this year it's 6 wins in 5 days. We had to play 7 games, and I just think if you don't know anything about Little Rock baseball, it's going to be a dogfight. We're not going to give up. We're down 6-1, guys, and watch out! Woo! That's cold.
Some awesome stuff there from Chris Curry. All right. We do this every week. We take a look at our 4 other Division I baseball teams: Little Rock, UCA, A-State, and UAPB. Let's take a look at them and how their season ended. Well, except for Little Rock. All their seasons are over except for Little Rock. We can talk UCA, A-State, UAPB. The Trojans, their current overall record, 36-26. UCA at 31-26, A-State 29-24, UAPB 25-33. Little Rock, we'll talk more about them later, but UCA finishes at 31-26, 17-13 in the A-Sun. They had a decent conference tournament, but fell in the second round and wasn't able to get out of the single elimination this past week. And Arkansas State did not qualify for their conference tournament bracket. They finished a couple games under 500 in their conference, which is unfortunate, a little bit disappointing. Then UAPB, not an amazing overall record, but I think I saw it was their most wins they've had against Division I teams in program history. So well done to them. They finished 16-14 in the SWAC. They were another team that just made a run in the SWAC. They knocked off the #1 team in the SWAC, but ended up falling in the semifinals. So there's a baseball year in review. Hopefully we'll be talking even more good things for Little Rock next week. But that is Little Rock, UCA, A-State, and UAPB. All right, we're now going to take a look ahead. This show is Luttie's Look Back, so we look back. But for our last 10 minutes or so of the show, we're going to be looking ahead to the regionals that all our teams have. So we'll talk Arkansas's regional in Lawrence. We'll talk Little Rock's regional in Hattiesburg. And then we'll, of course, talk Arkansas softball and the Women's College World Series. We'll first start with the Lawrence regional. Got Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri State, and Northeastern. These are the 4 teams. Whoever wins this will face off in a super regional matchup against the Georgia Tech regional, the Atlanta regional, which will most likely be Georgia Tech. It's one of the top teams in the country this season, very explosive offensively. When you talk about offensive teams, yes, you can talk Georgia Tech out of the ACC, but you also got to talk the Kansas Jayhawks. That's one thing to know about them, and here's kind of the rundown of what I'm going to go through, a little bit about each team. So when you watch this game, you'll become a little bit more familiar and also give my prediction. I'm going to go ahead and say that Arkansas is going to come out of this regional victorious, but it's not going to be as easy as you think. Because, of course, they play Missouri State in their very first game, and that is in and of itself a challenge, because Arkansas, of course, has already faced the Bears twice this season. One time on a neutral site field, they lost by 1 run, 15-14 in like 10 or 11 innings. It was a crazy game. Then they came back a month later, back in April, had this game in Fayetteville. The Razorbacks won in run rule fashion, 12-4. Missouri State's a good team. They're good offensively. They're top 50 batting average team in the country. Pitching, though, not so much. They average about 6 earned runs per game. So as well as Arkansas has been hitting the ball, I like Arkansas' chances in this game, and then probably facing off against Kansas in the next matchup. We didn't have a full bracket because it gets a little complicated when you get to double elimination, but it will be a full bracket. It's important that Arkansas wins the first 2 games, and they're really set up for success Takes 3 wins to advance to the next round, which will be the Super Regional. So Arkansas, Missouri State will face off first. Of course, it's double elimination, so if the Razorbacks were to lose, they still get a chance, but not too often. Probably not ever Arkansas has lost the first game of the regional and then be able to come back and still win that regional. So that's a little bit about Arkansas and Missouri State. Kansas, I mentioned how good they are offensively. 102 home runs on the year. That is top 16 in the country. Tyson LeBlanc is the guy to watch for the Jayhawks. He's got 21 home runs on the season. Offensively, they force a lot of walks. They're top 15 in the country in forcing walks. Pitching, not as amazing. They're about 100th in the country in earned run average as far as pitching, so they're not amazing in that regard. But they're still a good team. There's a reason they are hosting this regional, and there's a reason Arkansas isn't, okay? We can talk all we want about Arkansas having this run this last month of the season. Reality is they didn't pull off wins against bad teams earlier on in the season, and that's why they have themselves here on the road in a regional that isn't theirs. And so they'll have to go to Kansas. Thankfully, it's relatively close to Northwest Arkansas here from Little Rock. It's 5 or 5.5 hours, so we'll see what the Razorbacks can do there. Against a tough Kansas team, but a Kansas team I think Arkansas will come out victorious against. And then, of course, also have the 4 seed Northeastern. Not the most flashy team, but it is flashy to know that they lead the country in stolen bases. They have over 200 stolen bases this season, and that is in their conference. I wonder how they would do if they face off against the top catcher in the country in Ryder Helfrich. So that's Arkansas's regional that they have. One last thing to note before we move on to the next regional. The average RPI, a metric used, the metric that I think Arkansas got hosed and didn't get their own regional, the RPI. The average RPI of all these teams is 38. That is first in the country of all the regionals, which is to say, according to the RPI, this is the toughest regional in all of college baseball postseason. So a tough draw for the Razorbacks, according to the RPI, which is the very metric that the reason Arkansas is not hosting their own regional. So you can say what you want about the RPI, but that's the statistics behind that. The last stat I will give, Kansas against teams in the NCAA tournament, not the regional, but the NCAA tournament. Listen to this. Kansas, 4 wins and 3 losses at home. And again, they're playing this game in Lawrence. They're playing it at home. Kansas against Kansas against NCAA tournament teams has won 4 and lost 3. That stat makes me confident that Arkansas can do this. Maybe Kansas gets them in game 6 down the line or something, but I think overall Arkansas will come out victorious and head to Atlanta for the Super Regional. I think that's probably where their season ends, in the Super Regional against Atlanta. They're pitching, or against Georgia Tech, because Arkansas's pitching is not good enough, and Georgia Tech's bats are really good. So that is the Lawrence Regional. Let's now move on to Little Rock's Regional, which is obviously not in Little Rock, but it's in Hattiesburg. Southern Miss is the host of that. If you're like, who's Southern Miss? That's not a big power name. You're correct in saying that or thinking that, but at the same time, you're not correct. I mean, it's good. Little Rock doesn't have to play an SEC team like last year when they had to face off against LSU. They're even being talked about. There's projections of Little Rock being a 4 seed. In one of these regionals. They're not. They're a 3 seed. They're not. They're a 4 seed in this regional. Southern Miss, the 1 seed. Jacksonville State, a really good 3 seed. And then Virginia, a really good 2 seed in their regional. So just like the Razorbacks, it's double elimination. Little Rock will have to do, a lot to come out victorious. Remember last year they had such a good run in the Baton Rouge Regional, almost made it on to the Super Regional. They were the only team to beat LSU at all in the postseason last year. Maybe they're the only team to beat Southern Miss. Maybe Southern Miss goes on to win it all. You don't know. Southern Miss, a team out of the Sun Belt. They're a great team. They were the Sun Belt regular season and tournament champions. Batting average, pretty good, but earned run average better, which is to say their pitching is really good. A top 10 pitching team in the country, led by Colby Allen. He leads them in ERA. He comes out of the bullpen. I don't know if the Trojans would see him on day 1, but if Little Rock loses that game, then maybe beats Virginia, then maybe they can come out of the loser's bracket and possibly see Colby Allen at some point. They're also really efficient at fielding as Southern Miss, 16th in the country with a .981 fielding percentage. Southern Miss is a 40-win team. I mentioned them not being an SEC team and maybe not being talked about as much, but they've done better things than SEC opponents at times this season. They have wins against Oregon State, Alabama, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. That's 3 SEC teams and 1 really good team in Oregon State. Now, they did lose to a couple of those teams later on in the season, so they've shown some up and down traits, but they've got 40-plus wins this season, and they're certainly worthy to host a regional. They're the number 9 overall seed, so they're really close to being able to host a super regional, but not quite. They're a good team, and Little Rock will have to be ready to go. I assume Brandon Westermoreland, their ace, will get the nod when this game gets going. Friday at 1 o'clock at Southern Miss. These other 2 teams, I mentioned Jacksonville State. Gosh, they're a good team. To be a 3 seed, they're a good team. They've got 40-plus wins. They've got wins against Auburn 2 times this season. Yeah, the Auburn Tigers, that's a top 8 nationally ranked team. They played Alabama twice. They were close with Alabama. They've got a top 50 batting average team, a top 10 pitching team. Stephen Cash leads the way with an under 3 ERA for Jacksonville State. They're a good team. They're a scary team. You think 3 seed, and you think maybe you don't know that name. Think again, because it's a good team. That Little Rock, if they perchance they play Jacksonville State, we'll have to be ready for. Maybe not as much as Southern Miss, but we'll have to be ready for them. And then finally, Virginia, the 2 seed. I haven't even talked about them. Statistically, they're not amazing, but they also play in a much harder conference than all these other teams. And so that's why nothing jumps off to the page to me as far as fielding, hitting, and pitching. Virginia, the Cavs, are still a really good team, and historically, of course, they are as well. So if Little Rock faces off against Virginia, they'll need to be ready to go as well. So that is the Hattiesburg Regional for Little Rock in the baseball world. Finally, let's go to the softball world. Women's College World Series. We'll actually take a look at that bracket. And I'm not going to fill it out like I do with March Madness, but I may kind of give my light prediction. So you see the bracket here. We'll take it full for you so you can see the full bracket and get a better idea of what we're looking at here. Only 8 teams left in the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. Texas Tech, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Texas. Those are the 4 teams in bracket number 1 that if Arkansas were to get out of bracket number 2, they would face in the College World Series finals. And then, of course, bracket number 2, you got a really good Alabama team, almost underrated UCLA team, and then you got Arkansas, and then you got Nebraska. So we'll come back to me on screen talking about kind of my bracket breakdown here, see what Arkansas has. Their draw, obviously, dominated the regional, dominated the super regional. Now they're on to Oklahoma City for the first time in program history. As I mentioned earlier, the Razorbacks get the very last game out of all of them. It's a late tip-off or a late throw-off. It's not basketball, it's softball, whatever you want to call it. It's a late start time for this one. It's 8:30. It's in Oklahoma City. It's on ESPN2. Nebraska is a good team. Nebraska is a really good team that Arkansas will have to be ready for if the Razorbacks are going to have to take them down. So there's the look at it. Oklahoma City, Thursday, 8:30 on ESPN2. As I mentioned, Nebraska is a good team. You know, Arkansas has never been to Oklahoma City. They've never made it to the College World Series. Well, Nebraska has, but it's their first time since 2013. You're going to want to watch out for Jordan Fromm. She's got a 1.14 ERA. It's a team that is really good pitching, that is pretty good hitting, but really good pitching. So the Arkansas bats that have been hot all postseason will have to be ready to go. Should the Razorbacks win that game, they would advance to either face Alabama or UCLA. It's a Crimson Tide team that is second in earned run average. It's a UCLA team that is the top offensive team in the country. They lead the nation in batting average at a .38 rate. So that's Alabama, that's UCLA, who Arkansas could possibly face on Saturday if the Razorbacks were to beat Nebraska. But it is a challenge in and of itself to take down a Cornhuskers team that's been a while since they've been in this stage, but is a really tough and challenging team for the Razorbacks. So that's a big one. That's a big one for Arkansas coming up this weekend, or this week, I should say, against Nebraska in their first ever appearance of the Women's College World Series. It's going to be a fun one. Man, we're going to have even more to talk about hopefully next weekend with Arkansas softball, baseball, and Little Rock baseball. Recap it all and hopefully look ahead to even more baseball and softball for both of those teams. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Luttie's Look Back.